Milo and Milo watch movies. Milo and Milo watch movies.
That's right. Welcome to Milo and Milo watch movies for Monday, November 11th, 2021. It is 7:48 on the PM.
I appreciate how precise you get.
Episode 3.
Woo!
What do we watch, baby?
We watched Troll.
As always, you're listening to Katie Milo.
Hello.
And I'm Charlie Milo.
And that's Charlie Milo.
Happy early or belated holiday. What was the closest holiday to this one?
Well, Thanksgiving's in like 3 days.
Happy early Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
early Thanksgiving, everybody. We hate to damper the holiday, but we're going to take you through a movie that may or may not
Ruin your
appetite. I was going to say should or should not have been made, but it's almost so bad it's good, but it's also just
It's pretty bad.
It's also just so bad.
It's pretty bad, but there's good and memorable parts in it, but it's not like you don't watch it once a year with friends and family. Like I don't see a lot of parties getting created around Troll.
No, it's definitely not like a party movie.
Troll 2 is, but that has nothing to do with Troll. And it was actually called Goblins, but they retitled it Troll 2 to try and capitalize off of the popularity of Troll.
The ever popular 1986 film Troll, whose biggest star was definitely Sonny Bono.
Sonny Bono is in this one. He turns into a green pod that sort of spouts a mutant weed plant.
That's true. Some sort of sweaty avocado-y solution all over his face kind of a thing. And it's not great. And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus,
First
movie ever.
Film debut.
Film debut.
Film debut.
And, little fact, her boyfriend in the movie ended up being her husband in real life.
Ben... What was that guy's name? Was it Ben Hall?
No. I think that's our friend.
What's his name?
Ben Dreyfus.
Ben Dreyfus.
Ben Louis Dreyfus.
You think she made him took her last name?
I think that he probably took her first name, so he might be Ben Julia.
Julia Louise.
But, it was shot in Rome,
husband.
and so...
Brad Hall.
Close.
And they were married on the year we were born, and they're still married.
Oh, that's lovely.
So, mazel tov.
Mazel tov. So they got married a year after this film came out. There must have been sparks flying on the set of Troll.
She said, from what I was able to gather, she was broke, and she was excited to go to Rome. And that's how she was able to be talked into doing this movie.
The Wikipedia about this movie says it was supposed to be San Francisco, but I suppose Rome was cheaper. And was there a Roman director? Is that what the issue was? Or it was just that Rome was like, oh, hey, it's a cheap place to film?
Troll 2 had an Italian director, but this one was actually directed the directorial debut of John Carl Buechler, who was a...
Good old John Carl Buechler.
John Carl Buechler was
special
a
effects guy, right?
super duper special effects guy who worked on Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Oh my
God, okay.
Ghoulies 3, which was Ghoulies Go to College.
Question.
Yells.
If I start with Ghoulies 3, will I have missed something if I have not seen 1 or 2?
Probably. That would be my assumption.
Because if they're going to college, I mean, how did they get there?
They probably graduated from high school, which is what I'm assuming the second one was about. And the first one would naturally be about junior high.
Oof, the worst.
So it's like Degrassi, but with
ghouls.
Dingleberry monsters.
Sounds ultimately more inviting and exciting.
All right, so we open up with the Potter family moving into a new apartment complex.
That's true. Father's name is Harry Potter.
Big
no
record
relation.
collector. He's got a lot of records.
And his blonde wife, who's very 80s in her sweatsuit, has some sort of issue with his records, although we never really find out because it seems like they have plenty of room in there.
Yeah, it seems like the way they touch on it seems like it should be foreshadowing. She's like, "You got a lot of records. I wish you would get rid of some of these records."
But he's a music hound, as we see later in the film when he does a sweet ass dance sing along to Summertime Blues, which also feels weird and out of
it definitely
context.
It feels out of context, as does everything else in this fucking movie. It almost feels like John Carl Buechler knows what movies are supposed to look like and sound like, but he doesn't know how to like just
quite get
put
it there
together. Like, because there's elements of like horror movie, there's elements of kids movie, there's elements of
like comedy,
like
slapstick comedy almost. Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's not a very dark movie. It's I mean the scariest quote unquote parts are when he's showing off his creatures from his warehouse. And when all the trolls start singing that song for like 7 minutes.
Yeah, there's some interesting puppetry happening, which I mean,
he was like, "All right, boys, this is our bread and butter. This is where we put all our expertise to use."
Yeah, it's like if a bunch of Muppets were put in a hot van and sort of melted. And then everybody was like, "Well, let's just use them anyway."
They're all the Matt Damon version of the puppets.
They don't quite sing, or they sort of hum. They don't really talk. They definitely don't move.
They
but
chant
they like
in troll language. They chant in troll language while sort of shaking side to side, like the.
Yeah.
It's a small world after all, but it's like the.
Yeah. And it's also hard to know whether everybody can hear the singing or not. There's definitely a woman in the apartment who we come to find later is a princess. She can clearly hear the singing because she just happens to have this like sweet ass horn to blow that stops and bothers the creatures. Again, though, hard to know if like the humans can't hear it or what's happening. But again, there's a lot of fuckery in this movie, and like that point is probably not the most important one to figure out.
So we're getting to this episode 3 podcast late, and I feel like each time we've almost recorded this episode, I've watched the movie Troll again in preparation. And even then, so I've watched this movie like 3 times, and even now I can't quite remember like how it ends, what the resolution is, because there isn't really. It's kind of just like this weird convoluted story. Like it almost feels as though somebody had a dream about a troll that is trapped in some sort of in-between forest and wants to take over an apartment building to refertilize the earth, right? Like, and they're trying to tell their friend about their dream. And their friend just decides like, "Oh, okay, here's what it is. Here's the movie." Like, doesn't quite make sense. The characters have no real dimension. So the troll lives, or because does the troll appear in the basement, or does he like always live in the basement?
No, so the troll lives in some sort of in-between hidden space where he can access both this like forest world and the apartment. And because his former love is in the apartment, he's been like living in the laundry room, I think.
So
I don't know why.
So he can transport. So he mainly hangs out in like the foresty sort of atmosphere, and then he can transport.
Yeah, because
into the basement.
Because he wants to bring the forest into like the real world. Remember, because they have like.
But just the apartment though. Just the apartment though, right?
No, eventually he wants like the whole world to be like that, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just assuming if I were a troll and I was trying to create each apartment to look like some weird foresty scene.
And so
why would I stop there?
But what I gathered is he's always in the apartment, and so is Eunice, the old lady the fucking silver fox cougar upstairs who's
Yeah.
trying to make it with Harry Potter Jr.
Yeah, who also happens to have her own little creature friend who's a little mushroom named Galwin, who
But he's like
was a former teacher.
he's like a quote unquote good creature, and
Yeah.
all the other creatures are. I don't know, because the troll's face itself, like, it's not even like a scary troll. He's got this sort of like pleasant old man smile on the whole time, and he's just sort of like, yes, grow, creatures, grow.
He doesn't even really speak, but he looks a little bit like if the main wild thing from Where Are the Wild Things Are was like smiling with like dad teeth. That's him. It's
What
a
are
little,
dad teeth?
you know, like square and kind of spaced out. No offense to all the dads, but
Like
you know, individual little chiclets.
like Drew Pickles, or what was
Yep.
Tommy Pickles' dad's name?
Exactly.
What
Mr.
was-
Pickles.
Did he have a name though?
Yeah.
Stu
Pickles. That's exactly. Great reference. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
They all had horrible teeth. Actually, everybody in that show sort of looked a little methy, but keeping it together.
You know, it was an interesting time for animation.
Class B Suko was trying to send us a message.
They're also, speaking of animation, there seems to be like claymation in this movie, puppetry, like stop and go animation at some point.
Well, that was John Carl Buechler. That's like what he knew how to do, and I think the rest. So he was sort of like, let's show him all our tricks, and then the rest of the movie will just sort of be whatever.
Right, people are in it for the tricks, not for the rest of the movie.
'Cause
like it just didn't even have a plot. Like I couldn't even tell you really what it was.
It seemed like Torok, the wizard who was transformed into a troll for some reason.
Yep, don't really know why.
Wants to change this apartment into a forest.
Right.
And he wants to change it room by room. And at some point, Eunice makes note of that. She's like, he can't go through with his plan if he doesn't get your house or whatever.
Right, like you have to invite him in. Don't invite him in, which also seems confusing because, I mean, not everybody invited him in, but he also impersonated the little girl. But here's also the crux of this. So are we to believe that this troll becomes this little girl, or lives inside of this little girl, or just like possesses her? Like, what's happening? Because she like growls and like acts all trolly.
So the only little bit of behind the scene, like the only interview I could find from John Carl Buechler about this movie, he said that he needed to find a little actress who could be both a sweet little girl and a troll, because the troll doesn't completely take over her body. He's just sort of like, he says they're like half and half, which just seems kind of like lazy post-writing excuses.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe he thought it was going to, maybe he wanted it to be that way the whole time, but it just sort of seems like no, you didn't hit me because I have an invisible shield on, like kids on the playground, you know?
Definitely. Like, and it's hard to know because she will turn back into the troll sometimes quickly, but then as a little girl she goes crazy and runs around and growls, and at one point she throws her brother across the room and he's like, no, it's fine, Mom and Dad, because like what is he afraid is gonna happen if his mom and dad find out? It's almost like he's afraid that like they will kill his sister.
Well, it's weird because sometimes she's running around and she's like, rawr, rawr, I'm a troll. And it's almost like they just filmed her and we're like, all right, we need scenes of her being troll-like in a human body, so go.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, none
because
of this was
after
fully thought through.
After the troll inhabits her body, she starts growling around and goes, I'm Godzilla. And I thought that was weird for the troll to like reference a movie that it had probably never seen before, but
right. Well, and also as when she's back as a little girl, like she's often like talking like she's older, or like sort of has conversations with the adults around her, which is also strange. Like she invites herself into her neighbors' apartments, even though every one of them is a legitimate adult and she's 8, and then befriends this guy who happens to be a dwarf, who, fun fact, actually plays the dwarf, or plays the troll.
Right. Well, in a dual role.
In a dual role.
But she goes to Sonny Bono's apartment and turns him and his apartment into
like
forest scenery / some trolls and
/
goblins.
Weird Al from Eat It. Remember when he has the makeup and he starts expanding?
Oh yeah.
That's sort of what it looks like a little bit.
Sonny Bono definitely went through like 5 stages of makeup for
Holy
that transformation.
Shit. Yeah,
a lot of commitment for this movie.
Yeah, he thought that this was going to be a film.
He must have, but a film.
A film.
So after Sonny Bono's, who does she go to? Does she go to?
So after Sonny Bono, she goes to her like exercise neighbor guy who's a former Marine. And
right,
she
she's
like asks him she asks him if he's ever seen death before.
Right.
And he goes, of course. And she goes, what does it look like?
And he goes, it's hard to explain.
What does death look like?
And then she goes, kind of like this. And it's
then
the troll.
Yeah. And so she basically takes them over and creates this little forest habitat where now exercise / former Marine guy is also a woodland creature.
A couple of different trolls or something like that.
Yeah.
And is it after that they start singing?
No, they don't sing until she's gotten Julia Louis-Dreyfus into some sort of a wood nymph. She makes her a nymph. So she's still herself, but not really. And then the troll starts singing for like 7 minutes.
Yeah,
this like creepy death song.
It's like the Grateful Dead of creepy death troll songs.
Yeah, it was. And of course, it's like in troll language, so it's not even like what's happening. And again, Eunice is sort of
lots
confused
of like boogers
and scared.
coming out of their noses and stuff.
But again, luckily, she had this horn that she could blow that would bother the creatures, and she was like, that ought to teach them a lesson.
Right.
And then she gets turned into a stump by the troll. And basically like entrusts the son Harry Potter Jr. to save his sister, which on some level I guess we should have known was coming all along, because the first scene is like, Harry Potter, watch your sister.
It's not very clear who like the main focus is supposed to be on, because they're like, is this movie about her overcoming her trolliness, or is it about him saving his sister?
Or the whole family? Or is it about Eunice and the troll?
Right.
Or is it about Malcolm, the little man who it turns out is dying, who she befriends and is like, do you want to be an elf and live forever?
Yeah, and then the movie hits the brakes when she came in and kind of like messed with everybody else to turn them into troll characters. But then when she meets the little person, she sort of has pause and is like, hey, brother elf, or whatever. Right. And then invites him over to dinner. And it's very strange, because you'd think that right then and there she would just turn him into his apartment into part of the forest,
right?
Rather than even bothering with her, like, because it's the troll, it's not her, it's the troll's. Like, why would the troll invite this character over to dinner
to hang out? Well, it's like he sees something in him that he recognizes, and it's not just because he's little, like, and like the troll is little as well. It's like pain or something, because when she's hanging out with him, also we completely overlook and never talk about the fact that this is like a little girl and like an adult man,
like a 30-year-old man,
like, yeah. She brings him over to dinner, like, my friend's coming to dinner, and they're never like, hey, how did you meet my daughter?
they're just like, whoa, a little person.
Yeah, like the dad doesn't seem bothered. He's just like, oh, well, I guess you won't be drinking milk, which they made some weird big deal about going to get. And then the mother's like stunned. Like all of these weird things have taken place. She's met a ton of strange neighbors. And all of a sudden, this absolutely normal, like, professor walks in who happens to be a little person. And she's like fucking stunned.
She's like, what?
Right. Not that like her daughter threw her son across the across the room, or she like gets fucking rude and like takes his juice, and they're like, give him back his juice, and she fucking pours it on the ground.
Yeah, she's like, no.
Yeah, like a little brat. And they're like, you're gonna go to your room, and then the brother's like, no.
It's almost like they were like, all right, we need to film the troll inside her being an asshole.
Right.
And they just sort of stitched the movie all together after they had a bunch of random ass scenes.
Yeah, they also have her as the troll looking out of her bedroom window and like totally like eyebrow like raising at some woman, like watching and checking out this girl. Like it's supposed to be almost like this troll is horny. And then the mom
Isn't
walks
it looking
in
at a Playboy
and she turns around. Yeah. Yep. The
when
troll
it's in
grabs
Sonny
a
Bono's-
plowboy.
A plowboy.
Similar, but a little bit of a different magazine. Yeah, no, it's very strange. We also don't understand. So Eunice is a princess / witch who was in love with Torak before he was a troll. And now there's no love between them, clearly. She's turned into like a old like grandmother willow tree. Like a stump, and is very like, oh, don't look at me. Keep going. Kill the troll. And so obviously the son has to grab some ancient sword and try and defeat the master troll, or like the troll's boss, because it's not just troll.
Right.
There's
it's like a boss character, or like a a boss troll.
Like a big strong
Troll boss.
Horned panther that stands up that also has wings.
Or something like that.
It was confusing.
And
something
then,
like that.
And then it like, so the little boy, so Harry Potter Jr. goes to save his sister, whose name I always forget.
Wendy Ann.
Which was Wendy from John, in that interview, John Carl Buechler was like, it's Wendy from Peter Pan mixed with Anne from Poltergeist.
Creepy. She does look like the girl from Poltergeist. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, John Carl Buechler, too. He died in
murdered.
2019.
Bummer on all accounts to everything just said.
So somehow the little boy gets into all the way Forest World. I can't remember how. He finds his sister in this like red glowy box.
Right.
Gets her out somehow. I can't remember.
He just pulls her out.
Just touches it.
Yeah, he just like sort of like grabs her hand and like wakes her up and pulls her out.
And then they get attacked by the monster, the big bad troll, and then the other troll shows up.
The troll who was possessing this girl the entire movie shows up, and in his troll voice is like,
he's like, no, not the girl.
And like he doesn't speak basically the entire time, and you hear him say that, and so he protects her. She and Harry Potter Jr. jump back through the doorway to this dimension, which happens to be like right outside of their apartment, and like there they are with their parents, all shooken up. The apartment's a mess. They open the door. The hallway is at least back to normal, but we don't see the neighbors. We don't see anything. We don't see Eunice, and we hear like ambulance outside, police, and that's it.
And the Potters are seen moving away, right?
No, it just fades to black with them standing like in their doorway of their apartment.
I thought they got in their car and split. No?
Nope.
Anywho,
maybe that was the alternate ending.
So we did not end up getting a DVD copy of this movie. We just streamed it on.
Good God, no.
On what, HBO Slacks?
We did, I think, actually.
So we
It
can't
was rough.
we can't check out the bonus features except for the John Carl Buechler interview that I watched, wherein he just sort of makes up shit that was not in the movie.
That was not
No,
really in the movie.
I don't know. But we did just watch the trailer before this, and the trailer even, or when you watch the trailer, it becomes even more clear that they didn't know what kind of movie they were trying to make, because it's like,
Right.
imagine a world where fairies and trolls that come back to life or whatever.
Right.
And it's just it almost sounds more like a trailer for a troll in Central Park rather than like the scary apartment forest movie.
Right. It does seem like it doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be. And also I wonder if like when they did the like screening initially or something.
Do you think they screened
Like,
this movie?
I mean, they must have, right?
Not necessarily. That's really
Do all movies not get screenings?
No.
Shit, I just learned something new.
That's for, well, I mean, I'm assuming not all of them, because
One would think.
you've got to have screening in the budget, I suppose, or in the marketing
Right.
or promo budget.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to know how they edited this, and also just like what what John Carl Buechler's original vision for this was. I mean, because obviously once movies get written and then people start acting and all like things sometimes change, but I would wonder like what he thought this was going to be, or if in his mind it was like an epic love story across time, and they had to find each other because she had to stay in the apartment and like
there's like
watch.
5 yarns going in different directions in this movie, and none of them really ever actually get started or like get resolved.
Right. Well, at least he kept options open. I mean, again, I feel as though he thought either there would be a sequel to this that was actually related, or a sequel at some point down the line. Like, things were definitely left untied up. Like, I still don't really understand what the fuck happened.
Yeah. When I think about this movie, all I can think about is the troll having sort of that like, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, kind of a smile, like kind of, it almost seemed like he should be sitting on a bench waiting for a bus, just being like, back in my day,
Yeah, he sort of just like wobbles around, and it's not a great movie, everybody. I'll be honest. It's not great. I mean, I appreciate the old school effects, but woof.
So, another one of the things that we always talk about is the movie poster for the movie that we watched.
Oh, yeah.
And when I told some people that we were doing Troll, they said, "Oh, like Troll 2?" And I thought about it, and I had forgotten that the sequel, sort of spiritual sequel to this movie, Troll 2, was this huge cult phenomenon, and that movie is such a bad movie that there's a documentary made by the now adult child star of the movie Troll 2. And it's this big cult classic, and they show it in movies and shit, and there's big parties that gather around and stuff.
That's funny.
One of the reasons why I wanted to watch this movie was because I remembered going into one of those back in the 80s. There used to just be places that would just say video in like red letters in a strip mall, and you would go in there and it would be sort of like a half-assed Blockbuster.
Right.
Blockbuster was like those were
one.
like, that was for victorious baseball games and good grades and stuff like that, and for every other Friday and Saturday night or Friday night, you would just go to video, or like sometimes you would go to the video section of Fry's Food and Drug Stores.
Okay.
But I remember this poster being in one of the video rental stores that we would go to, and it was just sort of like, whoa, what's that movie about? And so, because this was my pick, because you picked Orphan last, quote unquote, last week.
Right.
And, I just sort of wanted to scratch that itch of like, I wasn't able to check that out when I was younger. Now I'm going to check it out now.
The poster's kind of creepy.
The poster signifies horror, or at least like horror mystery or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like all black with like the troll, almost like he's sort of rolling the ball out towards the camera or something like that, and you just sort of see like his face looks scary in the poster, and then you never really even see him shadowed up in the movie. It's just sort of like, here's my nose, here's my mouth,
yeah,
it's got a big smile,
Just in the beginning, like the first time we meet him, he's sort of like in the shadow, but like
the first time he meets him, he's standing right in front of the camera, and he goes, ugh, and then he like scoots back between the two washing machines, and that's when I was like, this movie fucking hates Jewish people.
Oh God. I did not see my tribe in this movie, but again, where there's a will, there's a way.
He kind of looks like one of the Harry Potter bankers.
A little bit, but not quite as pointy.
You're right, not quite as pointy.
And he had like big feet. That
I didn't think they had the
on.
pointy technology yet.
They may not have.
They didn't have the technology to make it pointy.
Also, they were, again, hard to know. Is it a puppet? Was it a suit? There was a real life human inside of that at some points. Definitely not at others. So I don't know. And I couldn't find any interviews Sonny Bono did about this. So
I feel like he was the only. So the troll, the titular troll, was the only thing that had a human person inside of it, and the rest of it was puppets, and some of them I don't even think were puppets. They were just sort of like action figures with
like
goo on
like
them, and they were just sort of like
something that were like just twisted,
just sort of
turned.
rocking back and forth, going like blah, da, da, blah, blah, he, ha, he, ha.
Yeah, it was. Some parts of it seemed like more of like a rough draft. Like, here's the model for what we're hoping to build. And somebody was like, nah, the model's good enough. Just use it. You're like, oh, okay.
They're like, no, it doesn't need to be automated. Just twist it back and forth a little bit.
Can't somebody just stand under there and wiggle it?
All right.
Which is also, of course, what she said.
I feel like the highest profile person involved with this movie was probably Sonny Bono.
For sure.
So
in 86, for sure.
How do we get from Sonny Bono to Rip Taylor? How do we do 6 degrees from Sonny Bono to Rip Taylor?
Are we doing Rip Taylor again?
Yeah, we didn't pick anybody. Or who else should we do? Sonny to Cher? That's too easy.
That's too easy.
Sunny or is 6 degrees just too difficult of a thing to do?
We could probably do 6 degrees. We could probably do 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Let's try that.
Okay. Okay, so Sonny worked with Cher.
Yes.
Cher worked with Susan Sarandon. In Witches of Eastwick. Susan Sarandon worked with
Adam Sandler. In That's My Boy.
Okay.
All right, now you got Adam Sandler.
I was going to say
huge.
Adam Sandler. Woof. This is hard.
Adam Sandler worked with
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi
Worked with...
You got 2 more.
Shit.
Steve Buscemi worked with...
I got it!
Do it, baby.
I think I got it. I
Put
don't
it
know
together.
if it's within 6 degrees, but Steve Buscemi worked with Frances McDormand in Fargo. Frances McDormand worked with Brad Pitt in Burn After Reading. Brad Pitt worked with Tom Cruise.
That's past.
And then Tom Cruise worked with Kevin Bacon. There has to be a faster way. Please call in, dial.
So
Radio,
we
telephone.
got to Adam Sandler.
There's got to be other ways. There's got to be clearer ways to get there, bro.
I just don't know that much about Kevin Bacon.
You just know a ton, but you know a ton about Rip
Taylor. Yeah, I think I was just going to bring it back to Jackass each time.
We could probably. What about Pauly Shore?
Well, that's
be next
your pick for next week is Jury Duty, right?
My pick.
Was that your pick?
No, that was your pick.
Well, then you better pick one for next week.
Oh my god!
And it can't start with H, O, or T. Hot. Not okay. Knows it.
All right. Well, hopefully we can find something for next week that's a little less awful.
All right.
This was arduous.
Would you recommend other people watch this movie?
No, definitely not. No, you don't need to watch the trailer if you want, but like, no. Do you recommend it?
No, I wouldn't recommend it other than to show people either Sonny Bono's transformation scene and be like, look at this. Isn't this weird?
Sure.
The rest of the movie is not crazy and creepy like this.
Right.
And then to show people Michael Moriarty's dance to Summertime Blues, which is like, he dances like somebody who doesn't know how to like dance or have fun.
Right, like he read about dancing in a book and had never seen it. So he's like, let me
"Oh."
try this.
It was almost like the director pointed the camera at him and was like, all right, have fun to this music. And he sort of starts just like moving his body like a robot or like 3 cats in a trench coat pretending to be a human.
I was like, does this work?
Does this happen?
So you wouldn't recommend it?
I would not recommend this movie.
Okay, so I think we got 2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down from the Milo and the Milo watching the movies. All right, now we have a letter from a fan,
Hey.
Tammy McDennis.
I was going to say, look at this. We have a letter from the fan. Dear Milos, I love you guys' podcast. I'm excited for Thanksgiving. Are you excited for Thanksgiving? What is your favorite meal to cook? Sometimes I think my mother secretly wants to kill me. I hope she does it in my sleep. I'm so sorry, Tammy. Do you think your mother wants to kill you? How would you like to die? Ooh, dark twist, Tammy. Anyway, I loved your intro on episode 2. I watched Orphan. It was super scary. I love you forever, Tammy McDennis. Thank you, Tammy. I have to say, I got a lot of feedback upon my introduction to episode 2. Basically that I rocked it.
You knocked it out of the park, baby.
But so Tammy asked a few interesting questions. I think the first one is, are you excited for Thanksgiving? And what would you like to make for the meal?
I am excited for Thanksgiving. Yes. I like to
period.
I like to eat
statement.
I like to eat all the food that people make at Thanksgiving.
That's true. Although you do bring something very special in particular to Pie Night, which is the day before Thanksgiving. What did you bring last year that's now a tradition?
A nap. Oh, taco bar. Yeah, we did a taco bar at pie making, which we do on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah, he got a lot of scoffs, and then everybody was like chowing down on tacos because who doesn't love homemade tacos? Like, it's the best.
I always get scoffed at for my contributions to the family gatherings, but everybody always ends up coming around. Like one time I was in charge of desserts, and I brought milk and chocolate donuts, and everybody was like, "Oh, really, Char?" And then they ended up scarfing down some little chocolate donuts.
Milk and donuts that's a delicious dessert.
And then the taco bar, everybody's like, "Pah, a taco bar.
How could you?
What are you, some kind of fucking idiot?"
A taco bar? Who brings a taco bar?
And they all loved it.
Right. Also, pie night is a lovely thing that we do, but it's not like a real thing. It's not like there's a prescriptive meal. Like, nobody eats tacos on pie night. Like, who else has pie night?
Who else has pie night? It's a finite amount of people who have pie night.
It really is dynamite, though.
Dynamite. Dynamite.
So I like to make a bunch of different things. I try and fill in where your sisters need. And so this year we're doing I'm going to make 2 different macaroni and cheeses. I decided one's going to be like a GF gluten-free one. One's going to be not. And I'm going to try 2 different
a girlfriend
situations.
gluten-free.
One's going to be a girlfriend. One's going to be just a friend. And then maybe I'll try and make some sort of like weird dessert or something fun.
That would be cool.
Oh.
So one time I brought my then roommate Sonia over to Thanksgiving, and she had this thing where it was like a brick of cream cheese or something like that with like cherry salt, like some kind of sweet salsa over the top, but it wasn't like peppery salsa, but you like ate it with crackers. You like scooped it up, and it was really yummy. I can't remember exactly, but I just remember it was sort of like a brick of some kind of dairy thing that you would scoop onto a cracker, and then something red poured over the top, and then you scoop it up with a cracker.
Sounds yummy. Sounds like a yummy red dairy concoction.
Scoop it up with a cracker. All right.
What else do we have?
Do you think that your mother wants to kill you?
I mean,
she's never going to listen to this.
I would say like probably 90% no. But I mean,
that was a long time to get to probably 90% no.
I don't know. I think it's because I always go to like the darkness of like, well, we all contemplate our own mortality, and like children are this like extension of mortality for parents, right? But they also ultimately like we want our own self-destruction. And yeah, no, I get way too heady about it. I do think that she would smother me with kisses or something though, so at least there's that. Like just like red lipstick and saliva. You think your mother wants to kill you?
Totally.
Without a thought.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, we hope you both listen to this, and we love you.
How would you like to die? In my sleep. Quickly in my sleep. So definitely by like assassin's poisonous dart in my sleep. That's how I'd like to go.
I don't know. I mean, next to you, holding your hand.
Well, that goes without saying.
On a beach. Probably like with all of the peeps around and old and happy and painless, right? Like that's the hope. Or like in some sort of like super cool weird rock star way, like she exploded into a million pieces spontaneously
in the middle of a guitar solo,
right in the middle of the best guitar solo I've ever heard. But yeah, I don't know, it sounds like Tammy was having a hard day.
Tammy McDerricks.
We really love that you wrote in, and for the rest of you who are listening, which are probably a tremendous amount, please feel free to write in if you have questions, comments. We're happy to select and read on the air.
Yeah, it's gonna be a regular thing where we check out people's shit that they send to us.
We gonna check out the shit they send us, but not the real shit, just like the figurative shit.
Don't send us shit, people.
RSVP no to actual shit.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy watching this movie 100 times with you, though. It was the doing that was fun. It was just the movie sucked.
Yeah, we can't wait. after we watch a movie. We got to watch it and then get right
You're
down
right.
to business.
You're right.
To
We can't wait.
defeat the All right. Do we have any sponsors or commercials that we need to check in with?
Our production assistant says no, not at the moment.
Well,
Check out Charlie Milo Band on the internet. Check out HMM ? Check out Barely Garcia and Hamster Style.
that's right. All of these bands and projects have singles coming out soon. What else was it? Baked Sessions is not happening this Thursday over at the Gold. For our local listeners, the Gold Room this Thursday is going to be Yams and Jams, hosted by me, Marty, and I think Stoney. Stoney might be cooking, but instead of baked potatoes and jams, it's going to be sweet potatoes and open jams.
For Thanksgiving.
But other than Thanksgiving, Thursdays at the Gold Room is the Baked Sessions, and that's it's $5 at the door. You get to see some improvisational music by which is Higman, Martinez, and Milo, which is Marty, Chelsea, and myself improvising some tunes and music and stuff. And then $13 gets you a loaded baked potato with your choice of protein, and you get a salad on the side and all kinds of fixins and stuff.
It's really delicious.
I couldn't even finish mine last time.
Goodness.
I couldn't even finish it last
That's
time.
nuts.
Isn't that crazy?
It's just bonkers, baby.
It's just bonkers. Oh, and Tim, manager over at Gold Room, said that we were gonna get some glass vendor. They're gonna talk some head shops.
Oh, nice.
And try and get some glass vendor, because it is the Baked Sessions after all. Wink,
That's
wink,
nice.
nudge, nudge.
Keep your eye out for some glass prizes.
And
There's gonna be some raffles happening.
some of the door proceeds are gonna go to a charity of some sort, but they haven't picked the specific one just yet. So if you know a nonprofit that could use some charity, let them know.
May I mention Homeward Pikes Peak?
I think
wonderful nonprofit that supports housing and outpatient services and support for folks who need it. That's a wonderful place to contribute to. I hear they do real great work.
All right, so I think we're winding down. And what does next week's movie have for us?
Well, I mean, it sounds as though I'm being encouraged to have a Pauly Shore movie. So I imagine we're coming back with a Pauly Shore movie.
We don't have to do a Pauly Shore movie.
I don't know.
Do you remember when we saw Pauly Shore do stand up in the baseball?
I do.
Baseball park.
We did. We saw him. Us and like 15 other people watched Pauly Shore talk about his friendship with celebrities. It was weird, and how he used to be famous once.
Yeah,
it was a very strange.
He name dropped every movie he was in.
Yep.
He was pretty funny. He was fairly funny.
It was all right.
But
He's the Weasel. That was cool.
It was cool to see the Weasel live and in person, or half alive and in person. He's,
a little rough.
a
little worse for the wear.
The Roadkill Weasel live and in person.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see Biodome on the big screen across the across the baseball field under the stars. I always like watching a movie under the stars.
Biodome is pretty good.
I don't know if I mentioned last time, but we played the Black Mountain family reunion with and the Milo Hayes Meld, and at the end of the last set, when everybody was all done playing, they rigged up the sheet that they were projecting visuals on while people were playing music to do a movie, and they ended up projecting the Big Lebowski onto the screen, and they ended up projecting the audio through the PA that the bands were playing through. So it was almost like a drive-in movie, but just under the stars and in the forest, and we were all sitting on couches and like lazy boy chairs, like with our feet on the dirt and stuff like that, and that was pretty cool. I figure if you're gonna see a movie and you can see it outside, that's probably the best way to see a movie is under the stars.
Sounds like a
just
very
like the,
lavish life.
Just like the ancient Native Americans used to watch movies under the stars.
Well, The Big Lebowski is a historical film, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was first filmed and released in the 1800s.
Makes sense to me. The legend lives on.
'Tis a dusty movie.
Well, once again, thanks for having me chat with you about this movie. It's always lovely to find you.
It's lovely to find you too, darling. All right, party on, Wayne.
Party on, Garth. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you on episode 4.
All right.
Bye.
Later.